Auzubillahiminash-shaytanir-rajim. Bismillahir-Rahmanir-Rahim. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuhu. Thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen, for tuning into PTV World. You're watching World this morning alongside Shiza Hashmi and Shahzad Khan. Assalamu alaikum, Shiza. I hope that you're doing wonderfully well. But ladies and gentlemen, today, before we get started, there's just a little description which I wanted to give everybody to everyone out there, and that is that, ladies and gentlemen, Allah Almighty has made sure that there are 4 months which are very near and dear to Him, and Muharram Harram, ladies and gentlemen, happens to be one of them as well. Ladies and gentlemen, whenever we, obviously, according to the Islamic calendar, this is where the new Islamic year starts with the month of Muharram as well. And obviously, there are a lot of blessings within this month, and not just this month as well, but there are other three as well. We speak about Ramzan as well. But ladies and gentlemen, you know, this month actually has a very important message for the Muslims all over the world.
Absolutely.
And it is for the ones who want to learn, and I think it is for the ones who actually want to kind of be on the journey. Everybody was or everybody is. Ladies and gentlemen, whenever we speak about Muharram Haram, it gives us three messages. And they entail about, or they kind of discuss, or probably give us a message about sacrifice, they give us a message about patience, and they give us a message about tolerance as well, ladies and gentlemen.
Absolutely.
Ladies and gentlemen, I think that, you know, there's a lot more to learn. So we over here today are actually going to be students of all of those worthy professors we have in the studios, who are going to shed light on how the message is still prevalent of Kabbalah.
Definitely, Shahzad, and I think you very rightly said that whenever we do talk about this sacred month of Muharram, we cannot disassociate it with the incident of Karbala as well.
Exactly.
Definitely, we will be talking about that in detail, commemorating all the major sacrifices that till date have saved, and I want to say glorified our religion as well.
Exactly.
But along with that, when you said that this is one of the four most loved months by Allah as well, of course, every other day is definitely equally loved by Allah, but categorically it has been mentioned that Muharram is among the 4 months that are more prioritized in terms of, you know, if you do something good in this month, it will be rewarded many folds.
Exactly.
And if you do something wrong in this month, you will get, I want to say, the guna for it, or everything that you are destined to get for doing something wrong, you will get that many folds as well. So be very careful in what acts you are performing, be very careful in the messages that you will be forwarding throughout this month as well, and be very careful in sort of receiving the right kind of information to lead you to the right path too.
Exactly, which is why, ladies and gentlemen, they very correctly say Iman taza hota hai Karbala ke baad. But ladies and gentlemen, I think there's a very strong message over here, and this message is not just only for Muslims. I think it is for the entire world to observe, and that is that, for example, you know, whenever we are growing up, you know, our parents would actually tell us that, you know, if there's this one kid who bullies you in the class, you really need to stand against it. But you know, kids being weaker kind of didn't gather that, or do not really gather that courage to actually kind of confront that gentleman who's actually bullying them. But ladies and gentlemen, you know, the incident of Karbala actually gives us this hope. It gives us this courage to gather that, you know, no matter what happens, if there's somebody who's stronger than you, many folds, but if you are saying the right thing, you actually have to stick to it, and you have to make sure that you become an example for all of those people who might be oppressed at certain point, or probably, you know, they might be vulnerable, or there might be chances that there might be somebody who's actually going to oppress them in near future as well. So saying the right thing, ladies and gentlemen, is the first message which goes out from us. But now I think Shiza wants to add over here, and then we'll introduce the guests.
No, just a small thing to add to it, Shahzad, when you said we have to stand up for the right thing, always, always. And remember that whenever you do decide to stand up for the right thing, Allah will be there to help you out. Maybe you won't get the results overnight. It may take some time, but this is what we're talking about, patience, ladies and gentlemen. And we know in Allah ma'as sabirin. In fact, indeed, if you do, you know, observe patience, Allah is going to help you in ways that you cannot even imagine. So without further ado, I think we should definitely be moving on to our brilliant guests over here who will educate us about this particular month
and not just
the significance.
Yeah, and not just us, since, you know, the schools haven't opened up, or the universities haven't opened up. So I think there are a lot of kids out there as well, a lot of elderly people. So ladies and gentlemen, thank you very much for tuning in, first of all, and we're going to make sure that it's going to be an insightful program,
definitely,
which will let you know of how we can take lessons from the incident of Karbala, and how we can apply them on our life, and how we can lead a great life being a Muslim as well. So ladies and gentlemen, first up, he happens to be a religious scholar, a very dear friend of mine. We kind of spent our COVID days together. when we were in isolation. He's none other than Mr. Imran Sandhu Saab. Hello, sir. Assalamu alaikum. Good morning.
Good morning, sir.
How are you?
Absolutely perfect. Thank you very much for joining us. Moving on, ladies and gentlemen. He's been on almost all the news channels, all other channels as well. And every now and then, whenever you're going to tune into television, this is the face which you're going to see, ladies and gentlemen. So we thought, why not we should have him over on our show as well, ladies and gentlemen. He happens to be a religious scholar and an educationist. He is the one and only Mr. Azhar Ali Abidi Saab. Hello, sir. Assalamu alaikum. Good morning.
Thank you very much. Good morning.
Thank
you very much for
joining us, sir.
inviting.
It's
In
wonderful
such
to
a
have you.
dignified show and talk.
It's
And
our
you all-
pleasure, sir.
And you always do very well.
Thank you
so
very much, sir.
Means a
Jazakallah.
lot.
And alongside him, ladies and gentlemen, we have Nuha Khwa and a poet. He is Sayyid Nisar Bukhari Sahab. Hello, sir. Assalamu alaikum. Good morning.
Walaikum assalam. Thanks a lot, sir. You have to invited me, please.
Sir, thank you very much
It's
for
our
joining us.
pleasure.
It's wonderful to have you. But there's one question I wanted to ask before I move on to introduce another gentleman over here in the studio. And that is that ever since I met you since morning,
Sir.
while we were even discussing in the room, there's this diary which you've opened up and it's in your hand.
sir.
What's written in it, sir?
There have a lot of, I have written a lot of poetry, so, salam and makbat.
Wow.
Beautiful.
Subhanallah, which you will share with us today as
Inshallah,
well.
inshallah.
Amazing that is. Last
Please.
but not the least, ladies and gentlemen, Hazrat Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam said, "Jiska main Mawla, uska Ali Mawla." So, ladies and gentlemen, obviously the program would have been incomplete without a Naat Khwa. Ladies and gentlemen, he is Qari Inamul Haq Awan Sahab. Hello, sir. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Waalaikum assalam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Thank you very much for joining us, sir. So let's get the conversation started with the Imran Sandhu Sahab, sir. So, sir, there are three things which we wanted to discuss today. First of all, the message we deduce from the incident of Karbala. Then we talk about sacrifice. Then we talk about the powerful oppressing the weak. Let's get started. And you can actually, before we talk about this, I think what we need to do is we talk about the incident which led to the incident of Karbala. I think this is something which is very important for people to know that what led us towards Karbala.
Right. A lot of misconceptions are definitely there. So, with your, of course, knowledge, we can learn the history ourselves.
نحمده ونصلي ونسلم على رسوله الكريم فأعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم والعصر إن الإنسان لفي خسر إلا الذين آمنوا وعملوا الصالحات وتواصوا بالحق وتواصوا بالصبر صدق الله العظيم. First of all, this Suratul Asr, this actually gives the basic message, the model of success in Islam. And if you study the life of Hazrat Imam Hussain radiyallahu ta'ala an, you'll find all those parameters, all those actions, all those struggles that are required for success.
Yes.
The best action that anyone can do was actually practiced by Hazrat Imam Hussain when he wanted and he tried and struggled against a tyrant, Yazid.
Yes.
This tyrant wanted power, and in Islam, power is not our objective. Rather, our objective is to lead our life in a way whereby we get the pleasure and the approval of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And the only way one can do it is to stick on to the sunnah of our Prophet.
Exactly.
If you remember that incidents where Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam stood on the mountain and said that there's an army behind me. If I say there is an army behind me, would you believe me? They said, yes, we would believe you. But when he uttered the truth, the reality that there is no God but Allah, and he said that I am the messenger of God, those people who trusted him and said that he was Sadiq and Amin, they turned against him. The same thing actually, and then he had a struggle. He struggled all his life, 23 years, and made Islam go all out in Arabia. But after historically, if we see, slowly and steadily, some a person came into power over there, whose actually intention was not to the pleasure of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, but his intention was to hold on to the power and do any atrocity, any inhuman act. So Imam Hussain radiallahu ta'ala an decided that he would go and talk to this tyrant.
Right.
And he was actually called upon by people of Kufa, who invited him, but there was a intrigue that was going on, and I think this tyrant knew that he was on the wrong side of the history.
Of course.
So he did not want, and he was careless. He was fearlessly, rather I would say he was so much, he had so much fear in his heart that he didn't want that Imam Hussain should come to him and tell him the truth, the reality, talk about the reality. So this incident unfortunately happened. This incident is one of the worst incidences of the history, but for us, we Muslims, Imam Hussain radiyallahu ta'ala an and his practice has a level of the sunnah of our Prophet. It is equivalent, whatever he did, we think that it is an example for us.
Definitely.
I recited Surah Asr. Surah Asr tells us that by time humanity is in loss, but a person with 4 kind of traits will never go into loss. One, who has iman is in his heart, and his bodily actions are good actions, good deeds, and then he utters the truth and reality whenever for the people to understand the reality, and then he has forbearance and patience. So if you read through the history of Hazrat Imam Hussain, you find all these 4 traits in absolute form in Hazrat Imam Hussain.
Subhanallah. Beautiful.
So history tells, one thing that I would also like to mention over here is this: the day of Shahada of Hazrat Imam Hussain radiyallahu ta'ala an, the 10th of Muharram,
Yeah.
is a day that has lots of attributes in itself. There are historians have written some 21 traits of this.
Sir, we will come back to this, but let's just very quickly move on to Azhar Ali Abdi Saab as well. Shiza actually
If I
wanted
may.
to pose her a question.
Yeah, thank you so much, Shazad. So, sir, so far we have established definitely through what Sandhu Saab told us and we have read that Imam Hussain alayhi salam, along with his family, the intention was not a war, it was rather negotiation, and to rather stand up against, like you said, tyranny as well. So please further that note and let us know in summary what was happening in these last days of, first 10 days of Muharram al-Haram.
Actually, the Karbala and the sacrifice of Karbala is for human values,
Of course.
and human values are tolerance. Human values are that God has created this universe, and there is a creator of universe,
Right.
and amongst all of the creature, man is superior.
Yeah.
Allah Almighty has made man the superior one, but amongst the humanity, the preference is due to piety, due to taqwa.
Definitely.
No other standard, no other quality, whether it is pride, whether it is wealth, whether it is property, whether it is might, no other trait or no other quality or nothing else rather than piety.
Definitely.
So, based upon this teaching that all human beings are equal, there is equality, a society was formed by Rasul Pak, peace be upon him, sallallahu alaihi wasallam. And when Islam always recall the natural traits of humanity, which is truthfulness, which is integrity, which is honesty, which is equality among all human beings, and sacrifice for one another.
Right.
Exactly.
That is the distinguished line between human being and all other creatures. I tell you one example of it. Rasulullah Khatmi Martabat Muhammad Mustafa sallallahu alaihi wasallam was sitting with his companions, radiyallahu ta'ala anhu. And one man came in that gathering or meeting or whatever you say. From his looking or appearance he seemed to be a poor man. So when he sat along with another person or Sahabi, he seemed to be a wealthy person, or so he showed a little bit what you can say arrogance, or he tried to collect his clothes and squeeze himself a little bit. And Rasulullah Khatmi Martaba showed some what I should say that he didn't
Wasn't really
approved
pleased.
it, or he wasn't happy. Only he showed that gesture,
Right. Right.
didn't say anything. That person understood and he said, Rasulullah, I seek forgiveness and I give half of my property to this person.
Beautiful.
The other person who came, Sahabi,
Yeah.
Radiyallahu ta'ala anhu, he said, Rasulullah, I am very thankful to this person, this Sahabi, but I am not going to accept this offer. I might have some arrogance or any trait like him, so I don't accept. Half of his property he rejected. So that kind of society, that is about tolerance, that is about sacrifice,
Right.
was created, was established by Rasulullah.
Exactly.
Beautiful.
That society or the values were being deteriorated or demolished by Yazid. And all the prides, all the qualities that decide about the superiority of one human being to another were again in command.
Right.
Exactly. And sir, I want to continue this
I
note
think this
as
was
well.
beautifully explained.
Yes,
right?
it is very beautifully explained as well, because this is where we actually have to connect it with today's time.
Yeah.
And you know, since you mentioned that Sahaba was actually willing to give for just one rude gesture of his, God forbid, I mean, it's on to Allah whether it was rude or not, you know. But other than that, I think that for people who were present over there, imagine that property, ladies and gentlemen, wasn't a thing which was actually which had the love of people back then even. I think that's the kind of message which we want to talk about today. Sir, it's not just that I do these programs, alhamdulillah, I try and make sure that, you know, I run a living through businesses and other ventures as well. And every single day I come across people where people are not honest.
Yes.
Where, you know, even if it's about a 500 rupee or a 10 rupee, people are going to cheat you. I mean, you just talk about anything. I mean, I'm certainly on television and I know that what should actually be said on television, but ladies and gentlemen, we're not doing it the right way. This is one thing which I know. And then whenever we speak about Allah or the fear we need to have because of the things or the intentions or the actions we have in today's time, I think everybody needs to probably look into themselves and have a cleansing process going on. I think, and ladies and gentlemen, whenever we come on television on these days, the motive is to actually let you know that there are these strong messages, there are people who've actually sacrificed their lives so that we can live a healthy and a prosperous life, so that Allah can actually be happy with us. But do we actually look into ourselves every single day, and can we be like that, you know, okay, Allah will be happy because of my actions? I don't think so, because every single person, the moment they get a chance, they will cheat. And this
Yes.
is something which I have witnessed in my life and by myself as well.
Right,
But
Shahzad, I
we are
think
going to come back to this, Shiza. I think what we need to do right now is we will move on to Qari Sahab over here, and we would love to hear a naat. We'll take a short break, and then when we will come back, we'll actually ask what should we do in today's time? Because everybody, ladies and gentlemen, I know that it is a very generic statement, but one way or the other, what I've witnessed so
Whoever
far is
gets
that
a
whoever
chance,
gets a
yeah.
chance kind of drills it in as well. So, Qari Sahab, please, what are you going to share with us?
حدود طائر سدرا حضور جانتے ہیں کہاں ہے عرش معلا حضور جانتے ہیں حدود طائر سدرا حضور جانتے ہیں بروزے حشر شفاعت کریں گے چن چن کر بروزے حشر شفاعت کریں گے چن چن کر ہر ایک غلام کا چہرہ حضور جانتے ہیں ہر ایک غلام کا چہرہ حضور جانتے ہیں حدود طائر سدرا حضور جانتے ہیں میں اس یقین سے نکلا ہوں جانبے طیبہ میں اس یقین سے نکلا ہوں جانبے طیبہ میرے سفر کا ارادہ حضور جانتے ہیں حدود طائر سدرا حضور جانتے ہیں
reminds us the devotion and unprecedented sacrifice of the grandson of Holy Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him. Hazrat Imam Hussain Radhiyallahu Ta'ala Anhu and his family laid their lives for the sacred cause of following the true religion. The unmatched display of sheer dignity and grace is a symbol of belief which is hallmark of the holiest of families. Hazrat Imam Hussain Raziyallahu Ta'ala Anhu preferred death over disloyalty from the cause of their holy grandfather Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him. This act draws a clear line between those who exercise religion faithfully and those who fail to keep up with the promise. Tragedy of Karbala is undoubtedly the most gravely mourned event on the face of planet Earth. It teaches us a lesson that following the path of Allah Almighty may be hard, but it is always worth taking. Martyrdom of innocent family and friends at the tyrant hands of the most cursed names of history is a black chapter in the history of humanity, but it does carry the teaching that sacrifice against injustice will not go in vain and truth will always prevail. Muharram Harram will always be a month of deep reflection for Muslims across the world.
एक दिन में ही लुटा करबला में तेरा घर
हुसैनो मिन्नी व अना मिनल हुसैन हुसैनो मिन्नी व अना मिनल हुसैन ला इलाहा इला हुसैन है अता इलाहा इला हुसैन है बका इलाहा इला हुसैन है फरमाने मुस्तफा है ये कौले रसूल है.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, welcome back. For everybody who just got tuned into PTV while you watching World this morning alongside Shiza Hashmi and Shahzad Khan. Ladies and gentlemen, before heading out towards the break, there was this one thing which we kind of wanted to reiterate upon, and that is that we had a system which was full of values and morals. And in today's time, whenever we see around us, I think that we have actually kind of lost we have lost our way, and we have lost all of those values and norms as well. I'm not saying that everybody is doing it, but I think that majority of the people have definitely lost it, and we really need to consider ourselves. We really need to look back in time and history and see what our elderly have actually done to make sure to give us that system and enable us with all of those values.
And Shahzad, no better time to reflect upon our deeds and our character other than, of course, this beautiful month, the sacred month as well. So moving back to Sandhu Saab, sir, talk about the day of Ashura. Of course, other than the incident of Karbala, which happened years after the passing of the last Prophet, Hazrat Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, who completed our religion, there is definitely a lot of other significance to this day as well. Enlighten us, please.
Yeah, there are historical accounts on the significance of this day, but before I go into the detail of that, there is a time that is more valuable than the other times, right? Yes. For example, this day of Ashura, the 10th of Muharram, historical accounts that we have received as a veracity in the history of the mankind. It contain, like the sky was created on this day, the pen was created on this day, Hazrat Adam alayhi salam was created on this day,
Hazrat Nuh,
and the same day his repentance was given to by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to Hazrat Adam and sent as made a Khalifa. And then Idris alayhi salam was lifted up to the heavens on this day.
Quran was in deep waters on this day, sir.
Yes, and Nuh alayhi salam's it is said that Nuh alayhi salam's ship also got out of the hurricane, the flood on this day. Yusuf alayhi salam was released from prison on this day. And it is not only incidences, these great incidences. Even Yunus alayhi salam got out of the whale stomach on this day. It seems that this day has a significance that the haqq wins and the batil loses.
Definitely.
This is, and in Islam, let me tell you,
So thank you very much for saying that, because they say that Doomsday will actually be on the 10th of Muharram as well, and it will be a Friday. So Haq and Batil, I think,
again the
because
decision
that's a
between
day.
Haqq and Batil is going to be on that day, you know. And you know, before the advent of the prophethood, even the Ghilaf of Kaaba was changed on this day. Ismail alayhi salam was born on this day.
Oh wow.
Pharaoh was defeated on this day.
Yes.
So the significance is, this is actually the significance, and there's an ayah, or there's an ishara over here, that Imam Hussein radiyallahu ta'ala an also won the war against a tyrant on this day. The reason I say won the war, because शहादत है मतलूब व मकसूद मोमिन न माल गनीमत न किश्वर कशाई. This is the historical significance of the 10th of Muharram.
Right, so one thing I want you to add into it as well, for all those people who want to be fasting on the day of Ashura, we know that it was a sunnah as well. Should we be doing that?
Yeah, so Rasulullah Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam, what we should do on this day.
Yes.
Because there is a hadith, and an authentic hadith, that Rasulullah Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam used to fast on 10th of Muharram.
Yeah.
He fasted, and fasting on this day was obligatory before the Ramadan became obligatory.
Okay.
But then when Ramzan came in, Rasulullah still continued to fast on this day, and it became a sunnah.
Wow.
The obligation abrogated, but the sunnah continued. And there is a hadith also that says that that the last year of Rasulullah, he offered fast and said that you have to go against the Yahud, and that is why if I will be there next year, I will fast an additional day, either on 11th or on 9th. So fasting on this day actually also tells about the significance, and there is a hadith that tells that fasting on this day, Rasulullah said that I believe, I think that it will suffice on your the sins that you have done, and they will be forgiven if you fast on this day.
Wonderful, sir. Now let's just move on to Abdi Saab over here, because Abdi Saab, before we headed out towards a short break, there was this very important point which you highlighted, and it's about those values and norms. And one way or the other, I'm very sorry that I have to say it over and over again as well, we have lost our track. How do we get back on it? What do you think are the responsibilities of the elderly in today's time as well, and how do you think that we can preach our kids the way Islam was?
Yeah. Before replying your question, I want to mention two aspects. One is that no doubt there might be some other significance of this day, but Khatmi Martabat Muhammad Mustafa Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam is the reason for the creation of this universe.
Exactly.
Allah created it.
Definitely.
For Rasulullah. So his beloved grandson was slaughtered on this day. So the most significant aspect of this day is to mourn or to observe the memory of Karbala.
Exactly.
All other things are not so, they might be significant, but this is the most significant thing, one thing. The second thing, what we should do on that day, what is done by Rasulullah. This is authentic tradition that Rasulullah on the day of 10th of Muharram came into the in the dream of Hazrat Salma, Ummul Mu'mineen Radhiyallahu Ta'ala Anha, and Hazrat Abdullah ibn Abbas, and Rasulullah was mourning this slaughtering and this sacrifice. So the most significant thing is to observe the memory of Karbala and to observe this memory. So these are the two most significant things, which is relating to Rasulullah Khatmi Martabat Muhammad Mustafa Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam. Coming to your question, who will tell us actually that what was the sacrifice, what was for the sacrifice of Karbala? Was himself Imam Hussain. When he went out from, or when he started his journey from Medina to first Makkah and then to Karbala. So when he was coming out of Medina, he wrote a piece of writing, you can say a will,
Okay.
and handed over to Hazrat Hanfiya, his brother.
Okay.
And in that, and that is authentic, that is given in the history. In that will, he wrote that I am not going out, I am not standing up for any, to create any chaos in the society. These are the wordings of Imam Hussain, that I am not going out, I am not standing up to create any chaos in the society. I am going out to reform the ummah of my my nana, my grandfather, to reform.
Yeah.
Now, there was a tyrant, there was a dictator,
Yes.
that, or there a dictatorship that was prevailing entire ummah, and all were silent. And Imam Hussain is not saying that a tyrant or a dictator has come and he is ruling the society. He is not saying that. He is saying that I want to reform the ummah.
Right.
It means when the society is ruled upon by any dictator, when society is ruled by dishonesty, when the integrity is not the command of the hour, when there is dishonesty, when there is chaos, when there is unfaithfulness about or regarding the values. So, not the ruler, this is ummah who is at wrong. So, Imam Hussain very clearly showed his motives and wrote about them, and then from Medina to Makkah, and then from Makkah to Karbala. He was going or heading towards Kufa, but he has to stop there and had to move towards Karbala. There are at least 16 to 20 places where he stopped and gave his sermons.
Yes.
And those are written in the history, every history, in Tarikh-e-Tabri, history of Tabri, history of Khaldun, Ibn Sa'd, Masudi, everyone wrote, and those sermons actually define the objectives of Imam Hussain. Those were for the sacrifice, those were for the integrity, honesty, truthfulness. I give you one example.
Yes, please.
When every sacrifice was made, Hazrat Ali Akbar was slaughtered, Hazrat Ali Asghar was slaughtered by an arrow. Every companion of Imam Hussain, and many of his companions were also the companions of Rasulullah, Sahaba. They performed their sacrifice, and there was all alone Imam Hussain standing before the kuffar or before the forces of Yazid. He said, I will forgive all these sacrifices. I will forgive you. You come to the right path. You come to the values, you come to the truthfulness, you come to the equality of human being. If you right now even come to those and accept those values, and you don't follow the tyrants or the rulers like Yazid, I will forgive you all these what have happened. This is the mirage, this is the height of sacrifice that Imam Hussain performed.
Wonderfully explained, sir, as well. And I think on this note, ladies and gentlemen, we really do not have to say much. All I would love to say is, ladies and gentlemen, please make sure that you stand for your right, and please make sure when you stand for the rightful, make sure that there are other people who witness you standing for the rightful, so that they take an example, and in life they would know where to stand for somebody who's actually honest and on the right path as well. So, ladies and gentlemen, please make sure that you write to us on our Facebook page, which is with the name of?
It's with the name of Well This Morning, on YouTube, Twitter with the same name, Well This Morning as well. And we are definitely going to be wrapping the show up with a beautiful Noha recited by Bukhari Sahib over here. But the beautiful note, Abdi Sahib, that you initiated,
Wonderful.
I love the fact that you said it's not the tyrant who we're talking about, it's not the leader or the oppressor we're talking about, it's the ummah who has to be not silent, and they are the ones to be blamed as well. Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Sandhu Sahib, for being here. Thank you so much, both of you as well. Please take the lead, Nisar Sahib.
Allahumma salli ala Muhammad wa ala Muhammad. Kabr asghar ki बनाने में बहुत देर लगी قبر اصغر کی بنانے میں بہت دیر لگی، شے کو ایک چاند چھپانے میں بہت دیر لگی، ہے قبر اصغر کی کچھ قدم دور ہے بازار سے دربار، مگر کچھ قدم دور ہے بازار سے دربار، مگر پھر بھی شہزادی کو آنے میں بہت دیر لگی، ہے قبر اصغر کی شین ہر لاش کو جلدی سے اٹھایا، لیکن شین ہر لاش کو جلدی سے اٹھایا، لیکن لاش اکبر کی اٹھانے میں بہت دیر لگی، ہے قبر اصغر کی ٹکڑے چنتے